Good morning, friends. Happy Valentine's Day. This is February 14th, 2023, and this is Dream Big Today, where we do the 1 year living Bible, the 1 year living Bible. Yeah, that's right. Every day at 8 o'clock Central Standard Time. You can always watch later. It's recorded. So if this is too early, or if you are at work, or, this could be breakfast time, then you can always catch it later. Good morning, sweet Lori. I always like it when I see my buddies on there. And so, man, I hope that you've got a great day planned, because each and every day that you wake up is a great day to worship God. And today the focus is on love, because that's what our world says. This is Valentine's Day. Love the one you're with, or love somebody else, or love, love, love. But you know what? We got to come back and we got to focus on God's love. The word says to love one another. And it doesn't say to love it like the world does, because if I don't like you today, I don't love you. I'm out, just shut the door. But you know what? Even though we're around those that might be unlovable, that might be a challenge in your life, we're supposed to love them, folks, because Jesus loves them. So if you find somebody that you think that Jesus doesn't love, and you can make your case on that, let me know. But I'm thinking that you're not going to find somebody that Jesus doesn't love. So if you have a prayer request, put your prayer request in for us so we can pray with you. If you have a praise report, put that in. The best thing in the world is to share those praise reports and just see what all God is doing, because we get so focused at times on what's going on in the world. Oh my goodness, is there another balloon? Is there another UFO? Or is there going to be sugar on the shelf at Walmart? I mean, we get focused on those kind of things. So let's unplug from what's going on in the world, because all of that's temporary, and let's focus on the eternal reasons and the kingdom. And so let me get going here. A little bit from my devotion today. And it starts out saying, compassionate God. Have you prayed to your compassionate God today? It says, you are the perfect antidote to loneliness. For you are the Lord, my God, who takes hold of my right hand and says to me, do not fear. Do not fear, because I am with you. Sometimes, have you ever thought about just closing your right hand with just the thoughts that I'm actually holding his hand, just that feeling. You can have feelings that are bad. You can have feelings that are just making you feel terrible. Well, why not flip those feelings and just feel like you're holding God's hand? I'm thinking that would erase all of that other stuff. It says, I'm thankful that I can tell you about my feelings and the struggle I face. The best thing you can do whenever you're going through a rough time is to talk about it, write it down, talk about it to God. You don't have to, don't just rehearse all of this stuff, because our God is greater than our issues. So give them to him, and then talk to him, and then let that be done. You're finished with that one for today. And then this last thing says, the more I seek your face, the more I gain your perspective on my life. This is why we read the Bible every day. This is why we like to start first thing in the morning and read. And just like I see Ann, you get up and read the Bible every morning too, first thing in the morning. And we get more perspective whenever we do. And it says, at times I find it useful to write out my prayer concerns. This is why we ask you to send us your prayer request and your praise reports. Donna writes them down. You should do the same thing. You can go back in later on and you can write down how he answered it or how you are on a waiting list right now. I used to write mine back whenever I was going through some, when my girls were not well. I would write stuff down in my devotion, like on the little sides, because there was the date. I would know that on this date, this happened. And then, I can flip back into it and see how God worked through us. I still have that devotion, and that's been like 15 years ago. And I can go back and see all of the little blessings that he did while we were going through hard times. So I think that's all I have for other stuff today, but we have really got a great reading today. Exodus 37 through chapter 38, 31. I'm going to focus a little bit on that, but I'm going to jump right into Matthew as soon as I can. I just love Matthew. So we've been reading about getting the construction and everything going on. I'm going to flip back just to yesterday's reading, whenever all of the craftsmen were getting together and they were building things. Everybody that had skills and abilities were there, and they were using that for God. Now today it says we began at Exodus 37. And so now Bezalel, if that's how you say it, made the ark of acacia wood. Now then, here he is getting ready to make it's like a chest. And it's a sacred chest, it says. And it gives the dimensions: 45 inches long, 27 inches high, 27 inches wide. And then, it's a chest. Is that done? Well, not. God has things in a special way. I'm losing my focus. So he overlaid it with inside and outside with gold. Outside wasn't good enough. We see the outside. Look how expensive the stuff we're talking about. He did both sides, inside and out. And then the details that as you go through reading this today, know that everything, and we say this many times before, everything written in the Bible has a purpose. Now, God equipped this man to do all of this stuff, all of this construction, all of this intricate work. And my goodness, he put a gold molding around the chest. they're going to be carrying it through, thick and thin as they're traveling along, but it's still ornate. It's got 4 gold rings and attached them to its 4 feet and rings on each side. And it goes on and on and on. And, I looked at that and I thought, wow, we like to decorate things ourselves in our house. You wouldn't walk into my house today and see a blank wall. There's something on every wall to, I think it looks fine. Somebody else might say, well, I would put that here, put that there, but nobody changed the design from what God had given him. He continued on following the instructions, and, from the gold to all of the cherubim that he made for the cover, which was the seat. One of the things that I picked out that I thought was interesting is in verse 9, when it's talking about the cherubim faced each other. And this is on the seat of atonement. And they looked down on the atonement cover with their wings spread above it. They protected it. Well, with them looking down on the seat, this is a sign of humility. Then we go on to like verse 14. And so it's talking about the rings. And this is for the table of showbread and all of the utensils. Everything had a something decorative about it. It was ornate. It was just, I can't even imagine how neat that would be to see all of this stuff put together. Now, it's not talking about it in this part, but this table of showbread, they would bring 12 loaves of bread into that every 7 days, and the bread stayed fresh and warm the whole entire time. And I mean, how cool is that? That's supernatural. The bread stayed fresh and warm. You know, if we have bread laid out on our countertop overnight, it's stale the next morning. This was there, and it wasn't in a sandwich baggie or anything. It was just sitting out there. I mean, isn't that just amazing? So let me see what else I had in this. The oh, yep. Whenever you get on over and look to see, because see, everybody had donated stuff. Whenever I say stuff, I mean all of the everything that they had taken whenever they left Egypt. And so now they've got all of these special offerings. And so now this would be, if you look at verse 24 in chapter 38, 23 and 24, because it goes ahead and talks about still the craftsmen. They're engraving, they're embroidering, and then again, they've got all of their colors lined out in their fine linen. And then verse 24, it says the people brought special offerings of gold totaling 2,193 pounds of gold. And that's what was used through the tabernacle. And then they gave 7,545 pounds of silver. And then there was bronze. You know, I don't even know what that would look like. And, you know, it's always amazing to me to bring it into what that would be in our day. Today, by estimations, the present day value of this tabernacle and everything about it would have been more than $13 million. The combined weight was almost 19,000 pounds of everything that they brought. What a project. What a project for all of these people. I mean, what kind of tools did they have? What did they have besides their hands and, you know, whatever they had created? But the exact calculation teaches the necessity of thoroughness and accuracy in all things connected with money for religious works. And so, again, the Israelites had plundered the Egyptians back in Exodus 12:36, and that plunder was given to this project. Just something I thought that was pretty neat about that. Okay, so now then, Matthew 28. My goodness, Matthew 28 is going to be great. This is you know, the story that we love to study, or I do. I like to study it and read about it. And I've got Nancy had given me a Jewish Bible. And so I'm going to read something out of this to you also when we get to that point. Matthew 28, 1 through 20. Early on Sunday morning, as the day was dawning, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to visit the tomb. Now, another might say, now after the Sabbath, they came to the tomb fully expecting to find the dead body of Jesus. And as we talk about the Marys, because it seems like everybody's name was Mary. the other Mary was not Jesus's mother. She could have been the wife of Clopas, or however you say that, or she was the mother of James and John, and she may have been Jesus's aunt. But, can you just imagine if that was your aunt, your mom's Mary and your aunt's Mary and grandma's Mary? And anyway, so there was a lot of Mary. So sometimes it's kind of hard to keep them straight whenever you're studying the Bible. So you got to really watch and pay attention to that. And so suddenly happens a lot with God, doesn't it? We can be just strolling along our daily life, and suddenly something that you've been praying about takes place, and suddenly he changes everything that you thought you were going to do, and suddenly there was a great earthquake, and suddenly, for an angel of the Lord came down from heaven, rolled aside the stone, and sat on it. His face shone like lightning, and his clothes was as white as snow. The angel of the Lord came. And this always conveys victory and salvation and deliverance and overcoming the enemy. His clothes, it said his clothes were white as snow. His clothes were pure. And so was his revelation. The angelic rolling of the stone may have prompted the earthquake. The stone was used as a door or a gate of a prison cell, now served as a place of rest that the angels sat on it. Matthew 27:51 talks about an earthquake also marking both death and now resurrection. The guards shook with fear when they saw him, and they fell into a dead faint. Then the angel, spoke to the women. Don't be afraid. Let me see what my other Bible says. But the angel said to the women, don't be afraid. I know you are looking for Yeshua, who was executed on the stake. And then verse 6, he is not here because he has been raised. That was what I wanted to get to, and that's showing in the Jewish Bible. And the reason I wanted to do that is because this was a new thing that I heard this morning. He has been raised. He wasn't raised himself. His Father raised him. I hadn't even thought about that. He has been raised. It's past tense. He has been raised. So we know he wasn't resuscitated from death like Lazarus. He was resurrected. He has been raised. He was resurrected in a new body, perfectly suited for life in eternity. Come and see, the angel said, where his body was lying. And see, it's focusing on these women, the women that came, Mary and the other Mary and Mary. But when the emphasis is on women, the context turns to redemption. Because of his resurrection, we can experience a kingdom victory. Come and see where his body was. See, that stone wasn't there to keep Jesus in, because he could have left any time. Who knows when he left. He can tell us when we get to heaven how all of that really worked out inside. But that was to keep people out. And now go quickly and tell the disciples that he has risen from the dead. and he is going ahead of you to Galilee, and you will see him there. Remember what I have told you." The guards had faded in fear, but these Marys, they were frightened, but they were filled with great joy. It makes me have chills right now because, when you think about the excitement of this, he's not there. Wow. And they've spoke to the angel of the Lord, and he is just an amazing sight. They know this isn't normal. Spurgeon had said, "Saints running in the way of obedience are likely to be met by Jesus." The Marys were excited, but they probably couldn't wrap their mind around everything that had happened. So they ran quickly from the tomb. They were very frightened, but filled with great joy, and they rushed to give the disciples the message. And women weren't used to as witnesses at that time, but these women were. As they went, Jesus met them and greeted them, and they ran to him, grasped his feet, and worshiped him. Then Jesus said to them, "Don't be afraid. Go tell my brothers to leave for Galilee, and they will see me there." Rejoice. Rejoice. 1 hour before this, they thought Jesus was dead and all was lost. What a difference an hour makes. When everything is just going south for us today, and we think, "Oh man, I'm not going to make it. I can't make it." Sometimes all you have to do is just calm down, pray, read your Bible, and just see how you feel in another hour. What's an hour gonna change for you today? Just one more hour. They thought he was dead. An hour later, he's not there anymore. And then 11, as the women were on their way, some guards went to the city and told the leading priests what had happened. Oh man, this isn't good for them. Some guards. Now that means there's more than two. There's a Roman guard, which means several, and that's a very strict unit. Do you know they couldn't sit down? They couldn't lay down. The ones that was on guard had to stand all the time. Now, I think I had read a commentary that talked about there were some that they were taking turns. So there was enough they could take turns. But the ones on guard could not sit down. They couldn't lean against anything while on duty. And if that person that was guarding fell asleep, he was beaten and burned, and the entire guard unit would be executed. This is how serious it was. This was how serious it was for them to stand guard and make sure nobody stole his body, because they were afraid of the fallout. So normally a Roman guard was a 16-man unit with every member responsible for 6 feet of space. So now then, what do you do whenever it looks like you've totally messed up? Well, you just create a story and lie, and then you bribe somebody, and that's what they've done. A meeting with the elders was called, and they decided to give soldiers a large bribe. You must say this, that Jesus' disciples came and took him. And while you were sleeping, they stole the body. Now think about that. How to, if you say, well, while I was sleeping, the specific people came and took the body, I'm thinking sleeping people don't make good witnesses. So they said, if the governor hears about this, we'll stand up for you so you won't get in trouble. So the guards accepted the bribe and said what they were told to say. And their story spread widely. In fact, that story still goes around through areas that they don't believe in the resurrection. They believe that his body was stolen. But when Jesus rose from the dead, he rose in power as the true king. His victory over death established his credentials as king and his power and authority over evil. Some doubted. Some doubted. And one of my notes I wrote was, we are not all evangelists in the formal sense, but we all have received gifts that we can use to fulfill the Great Commission, because that's what we're getting ready to talk about. When the 11, and notice 11, not 12, 11 disciples left for Galilee, going to the mountain where Jesus had told them to go. When they saw him, they worshiped him, but some doubted. Now, Matthew doesn't talk about the Jerusalem appearances of Jesus and his disciples as John does, as we'll be reading in John. His focus is on showing the promise of Jesus and that it was fulfilled. Verse 18. Jesus came and told the disciples, and this is, we need to hear all of this. I have been given all authority in heaven and on earth. Therefore go. That 2 words. That's all anybody needs to tell you. Therefore go. And make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Teach these new disciples to obey all the commands I have given you, and be sure of this: I am the great I am with you always, even to the end of age. All, verses 18 through 20, all. This ties all of these verses together. Power in the hands of Christ is blessed. We believe in this power and we rest in this power. In the name is literally into the name, implying entrance into the allegiance. This is the Great Commission, because there is no greater news than the Great Commission. Go, therefore. Jesus has commanded us to go. Where can you go today? His authority sends us, his authority guides us, and empowers us. His work and message would continue through the world through his disciples. Jesus said, go to imperfect disciples. I'm so imperfect. I'm not deserving of what he did for me on the cross, but he did that for me, even though he knew all of the mistakes I would ever make in my whole entire life. But he was still using me. As we learned in one of our studies last night at church, talking about Moses, he made a lot of mistakes, but you know what? God still used him, and he used him him and Abraham and everybody in all of the people in the Bible. You see, they all made mistakes, and God worked through all of their mistakes to still get them where he wanted them to be. And as we learned, it wasn't a plan B, it was always plan A, but it might have been extended longer than necessary, because they still slipped off over the guardrails as they were going through life. And that's us. We slip over there and we have to be pulled back in. And God says, okay, he's taking you through another bump in the road so you can get to where he needs you to be. Go, therefore. Go, therefore. Make disciples, not merely converts or supporters of a cause. Don't do that. Make disciples. The idea is of scholars, learners, or students, disciples are made. They are a process involving other believers. This is the power of spreading Christianity. I think I just thought that was, I'd like to read that over and over and over. Go. All he's given us that authority to. So, friends, I think I'm going to stop on that. We will have new nuggets today, and I'm not sure who is doing that today, but in the event they want to, there's Psalms 34, and I want you to read that and jump into that today, and let that be your prayer today, because there's promises in it, and I'm going to have to do one promise before I go. It says in Psalms 34, verse 11 and 12, "Come, my children, and listen to me. I will teach you to fear the Lord." And look at 12. "Does anyone want to live a life that is long and prosperous?" And what should you do? Verse 13, "Then keep your tongue from speaking evil and your lips from telling lies. Search for peace and maintain it." So there's something you have to do. If you want to, this is a promise. If you want to live a life that's long and prosperous, then quit gossiping, quit talking about stuff, quit doing that. Actively search for peace. And then the promise is yours. All right, I'm done. And you know what? It's going to be a great day. It's Valentine's Day. Go get something fun to eat, some chocolate or whatever that looks like. Get some flowers, or maybe you just go give somebody a hug, because you know there's a lot of people that just needs a hug. We like to hug. And so you all have a blessed day. And Elizabeth and I will be here tomorrow. She was busy today, but I think we'll be back tomorrow. So we'll see you then. Love y'all. Bye-bye.